Hello and welcome to Pokemon Zoology podcast, PZP number 13 and 14 combined, I guess. If you are new to the podcast, my name is Joshua Dunlop and I am a concept artist living in London in the UK, and I create realistic Pokemon art. Basically, I just want to quickly kind of run over why this is a combined podcast. I was going to do one last month, at the end of the year, but truthfully, yeah, I wasn't in a very good place, to be honest. My mental health has been a bit up and down, as it has for everyone. And I think I just wanted to get into a better headspace before I started doing more of these. I mean, like, it's more entertaining for you, it's better for me, just to kind of go into the whole mental health thing. Like, I have been struggling with a number of things, and, with art block and depression and whatnot. I think it is a symptom of a number of things. One is overworking myself. There is a kind of a pressure when you do have a decent sized following that you want to keep people entertained. You want to keep that up, and there's a lot of pressure that's involved in that. And for me, it was just a bit overwhelming, not like necessarily just the Pokemon on its own, but I have other projects going on. Like, I'm working on Pangea Beyond Extinction, which is a really cool game involving dinosaurs and humans in like a fantasy world. I'm doing personal projects. I'm balancing home life, family life, dealing with the lockdowns that are back and forth in the UK. And I was getting burnt out. I was getting to that point where I was kind of getting to the end of my wick. And I think what really kind of like, how can I say it, the straw that broke the camel's back or whatever was, I did these Mew pictures as a celebration thing because I hit 250,000 followers, which is amazing. And I decided to redesign Mew because I did a Mew it was one of my first pictures I ever did, and I felt like I could update it. I always had like a very particular idea of what Mew was in my head, which is very feline, very cat-like, almost to the point where it was just a kitten with a long tail and long feet for me. So when I did that and I posted these pictures, there was a really negative response. I mean, there were a lot of people out there who were really lovely and said some wonderful things, and of course I appreciate that. I don't do this stuff for praise. I do it for the joy of it and the fact that it's a project that I'm really passionate about. But there was a lot of hate coming my way, and not constructive hate. And I've said it before in other podcasts that I'm like, I don't mind feedback. I genuinely don't, especially if it's like constructive. But if it is just people saying this is bad, do it again, it's hurtful. I put a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time and thought into my work, especially when people are turning around and saying that I didn't and that I didn't put any effort in at all. It gets me, and I think for me that was just like okay, this has really hurt me. And I did redesign them. I saw people's points, and obviously a lot of people came back to me and was like, you shouldn't be redesigning your art. That's your art. That's what you should do and stuff. So like there were some elements of it where I was like, didn't want to. But when I did go in and start tweaking it and redesigning it, there were some certain elements that I was like, oh yeah, okay, that I do like that one. Especially when I did the second image, and we'll get into that in a minute. But it was a big red flag to me that I was not in a good place. I had really, really bad insomnia. There was one point that I didn't sleep for 3 days straight. And no, that isn't, some people say, oh, well, artists overwork and stuff. I wasn't. I wasn't working at night. I never work at night, in fact. I just couldn't sleep because of stress and anxiety and all sorts of stuff. And I always encourage people. The thing is that depression, anxiety, all of this kind of stuff is always a taboo subject, and is also a very complicated subject for a lot of people. And people don't like to talk about it, but I think it's important to talk about it, especially in these times. I mean, at the time of recording this, I think it was yesterday, was when the Trump supporters stormed the Capitol. So we are in dark times across the board, not just with coronavirus, with climate change, with We're going through a mass extinction at the moment, with a huge amount of animals dying off every single year, like entire species, which is the worst it's been for a very, very long time. And yeah, it all just kind of feels a bit bleak, and Pokemon Project was kind of supposed to be my little light at the end of the tunnel, the thing that gave me joy and stuff, and then I realised that it wasn't giving me as much joy, and it was becoming far more about work and appeasing other people, and that was just, I don't know, I think it was too much. So I took a break, basically just put down my pen and said, stop, and I did. And at first it was really hard, because, like, as an artist, one of your main things is your way of, like, de-stressing and relaxing and stuff is drawing. And suddenly when that's the form of stress, it's like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I feel lost. But thankfully I have, an amazing fiance, and I have a wonderful housemate, and they've, we because of the lockdown, and we knew that we couldn't go and see family and everything like that, we banded together and were like, all right, we're going to make this the best Christmas we possibly can within our means. And it was a fantastic Christmas. It made me feel so much better to kind of not have, like, just taking a lot off my plate. I'm not going to lie, I feel better, and I feel more positive about things and coming back into the thing. But obviously, I'm sure a few of you have probably noticed that it's been a while since I has started doing another picture, and I know a lot of you are eagerly waiting, Mr. Mime. And I will get around to it. I will. It's just it's a thing. It's with especially with anxiety and stuff like that. There's often the case where you almost don't want to start because you're scared it's going to be a failure, and then you just get frozen. Like, you just get stuck in place, because if you're not going to start anything, nothing moves forward because you're scared to move forward. It's a very weird thing, and that's kind of how I've been recently a little bit. Actually doing artwork has been quite intense for me, or the idea of doing artwork has been quite intense. The reality is that I just need to jump back into it and actually start doing some, and I feel like I'm in a better space to do it. It's just about starting it, really. Anyway, I just want to kind of bring this up. I want people to be aware that, not everyone is okay at the moment, and it's okay to not be okay, if that makes any sense. If you are lucky enough to have people who love you around you and whatnot, like, take the time to talk to them, be with them, take some time for yourself. Don't let yourself get burnt out. Don't get stressed. Don't get overwhelmed. It's so easy for us just to pile more and more on top of ourselves, and it doesn't help. It's just going to make things worse in a time that we need to be positive. Yeah, that's basically it. And I just, I'm sending my love out to all of the people who feel like they're struggling at the moment. I've been there. I have family who are struggling right now, and just trying to be there for everyone. But yeah, on that note, let's move on into the first lot of pictures that I've done. And obviously I try and keep these podcasts down to a certain minimum, so please don't think I'm trying to rush through these. Yeah, the first ones we're going to look at is the Mew pictures. The first one I did it was actually suggested to me by a fan, and I thought it was a wonderful idea. I do apologise, I can't actually remember the name of the person that suggested it, but they said, it'd be really cool to see Mew in like a jungle scene with like a monument or something like that behind it, which is, we see that in a lot of the original films, like there was the remake, but there was also the first Pokemon film, and that had some sort of Mayan-esque designs. That was something that I really wanted to bring in, so I found this beautiful Mayan sculpture, and I was able to kind of do a relief of that in 3D, obviously tweaking it a bit to have a Mew in the middle and all this kind of stuff. And actually that was quite fun. I learned a few new techniques on there with surface modelling and whatnot, which I had never really played with before, so that was really fun. As I said before, my original design, and I will show you here, this is the original picture, which is Mew with far more cat feline features. And that was the one, that was my envision of it originally. And then this is the one where I changed it and I tweaked it, and I gave him a slightly larger, or her a slightly larger head, bigger eyes and stuff, made it far more kitten-like and a little bit more leaning more towards the cartoon. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I've done that with a lot of my Pokemon. And actually, I did like the way this turned out. I still completely disagree with people saying it's supposed to be a fetus and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. for two reasons. One, because I don't believe it is, and two, I think it's disgusting. I don't want to make one of the cutest Pokemon in the first 150 look like an unborn child. I think that's weird and inappropriate. Yeah, I went for the kitten vibe. Again, a lot of people telling me that it's not a cat. In my eyes, it's 100% is a cat, and there's a lot of research to back that up. But everyone is allowed to have their own personal opinions on this. These are monsters at the end of the day. You know, the artists had their ideas of what they were doing, and it is what it is. It's just, this is my interpretation. But I really like this one in the jungle and playing with the butterflies and stuff like that. It really felt, I wanted to have this kind of like peaceful, magical kind of vibe to it. But then I kind of also had this other idea in my head where I wanted to have Mew, you know, showing off a bit of its power, and so just showing how incredibly powerful this Pokemon was. I loved this contrast of something so small and seemingly insignificant and delicate being one of the most powerful beings in the Pokemon universe. So I kind of created this thing where it was like essentially it creating a miniature Big Bang. You know, seeing like these universes being created and this kind of raw psychic energy, and it was just looking at it and playing with it like it's a chew toy or a ball or something like that, you know. So yeah, that I was really happy with how that turned out. I thought the lighting worked really well. I've probably got up the picture of the original one, and this is the change. This is the one where I've got the larger head and stuff, and I will definitely say I prefer the second one on this one. I don't know why. I just think it's the cuteness that I was kind of looking for. And I love the big eyes, and I love the reflection in the eyes and everything like that. So yeah, I was really happy with this one, and hopefully a lot of people were happier with the changes. But yeah, if you are interested, I do have the size comparison as well, so you can see that one here. Usually those are Patreon exclusive, so you can only see them on my Patreon, but this time, because it was a celebration image, I made it public, so you can see the size comparison here as well. I want to say a big shout out to 3D Scan Store, who provided me with a load of incredible 3D scanned figures, this one looking awesome. So go and check out their website. They've got some really, really cool stuff on there if you're a 3D artist. Definitely worth checking them out. Yeah, and I was just really happy with this size comparison. You know, some people originally said, oh, I think that's too big. Some people said that's too small. I don't know. That's how I imagined it. I imagined that it could sit in someone's arms and they could cuddle it, and it can float around their head and have this beautifully long ribbon-like tail that's following it. So yeah, I was really happy with it. So moving on, last month I did Lickitung. In terms of sculpting, this one was actually relatively easy because it's quite a simple design. In terms of design influences, I definitely pulled from geckos because of looking at its very large, thick tail. I kind of did these kind of very similar kind of lumps that go along its tail, in the same with geckos. I also made its tongue a little bit thinner and more kind of prehensile so that it looks like it could grab things and whatnot. Originally I was going to look at things like chameleons and whatnot, but the way that chameleons' tongues are shaped and the way they look doesn't kind of line up with Lickitung's original artwork, and I think it would have been a bit jarring. So I went for the more kind of mammalian tongue, like in the original artwork, but I wanted to make it so it looked like it could really stretch and wrap around things and pull and push things and hold a lot of weight as well, which is kind of what I was thinking when, you know, it having such a thick tail and stuff. It would be about balancing its weight against the length of its tongue, so if it reached forward and grabbed something heavy, it would have enough weight to counterbalance that if it needed to pick him up or whatever. And obviously store a lot of fat as well. Like, I think pretty much that's what geckos' tails are for. They're for storing fat to, you know, help them when they're looking for food and whatnot. I started off with the picture of it on the beach, mainly because my original clear idea was the second image, which was the one with it reaching for an apple, and I'll show you that in a second. But I often have people, if I try and do kind of like interesting design choices in terms of positioning and you know, if I cut anything off the image of the body and stuff like that, I always get complaints going, but I want to see that bit. And I'm like, well, why? I don't understand what's so important about seeing that bit. You know what it looks like. Still, so for me, I was just like, right, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do a full body image where you can see the whole thing, and then I'm going to do one that's more in line with what I had in my head. And yeah, I was really, really happy with the final design, I think. Obviously, I went for a more scaled body, leaning more into the reptile. A lot of people surprise me sometimes. I don't know whether or not I'm the one thinking outside the box, or if other people are thinking outside the box, or whatever it is. But I heard people going, "Oh, I never imagined it as a reptile." I was like, "What else did you imagine it as?" Like I can't see it as anything else. Like it's always a reptile to me. But yeah, so I really liked how this one turned out. I thought the textures looked great. I sculpted it relatively quickly. I was really happy with it, and I got 2 really fun images out of it. This is the one with the apple. I just wanted to kind of have a different angle and do something different. There was a picture in I think it was the original Jungle set of the Pokemon trading cards that I didn't even think about when I was creating this, and then someone mentioned it and I went back and looked at it and I was like, that's it, that must have been my inspiration from when I was a kid. That was somewhere in my mind floating around and was still in there. So you could deem it as a homage to the original card art. If you want to see the size comparison for Lickitung, you can go to my Patreon, and I would absolutely love it if you could support me. But I do understand that it is tough times at the moment, so I won't take it personally if you don't. I just want to do a quick shout out for my Patreon supporters. We've got Bridget D Laurent, Francisco Pardes, Nikki Wolf, and Elvis Ditto. Apologies if I haven't pronounced any of those correctly, guys, but you know I love you. You know I appreciate the support, so thank you very much. I am going to try and tackle Mr. Mime next, so keep an eye out for that. Unfortunately, over the Christmas period, probably because I wasn't posting as much, I have dropped from 250,000. I think I'm down to 243, which is again a constant reminder of why there's a lot of pressure, because you're just kind of in this desperate attempt to kind of keep them up. But I need to kind of take that away from myself and stop putting that kind of pressure on myself. But hopefully we can get back up to 250. That would be wonderful. So much love. I hope you guys are doing okay. It's rough at the moment, but keep your heads up. And hopefully with these new lockdowns we can get the vaccines out and we can try and get back to some form of normality, hopefully by the middle of the year, or at least the end of the year. Much love, guys. Talk to you next time. Bye.